Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Um, so for context, I am going to be diverging my content. I am going to not be making uh, SPC videos as much because there's really no severe weather, to be honest. And so what I'm going to do is if/when there's no severe weather, Uh, I shouldn't say there's no severe weather today. There is. It's just really not much for me to cover. It's just some wind, hail, maybe a potential tornado or two, but that's nothing super substantial. It can be handled. Uh, what I usually do, or what I will do from now on, is if/when there's either no severe weather or limited severe weather, I will make a climate prediction center/weather prediction center video if something stands out. Sometimes nothing will stand out. Sometimes there won't be anything to record. So I just won't if there really is nothing. If there's nothing pertinent or there's nothing interesting, I won't necessarily make a video. However, there have been some interesting things. So that's why I'm making a video. I'm making a video today on something called the Weather Prediction Center. wpc.ncep.noaa.gov. That's wpc.ncep.noaa.gov for more information. Go there. For context, the Weather Prediction Center essentially predicts the amounts of precipitation that fall. They can predict rain and snow and also the types of weather conditions. And this, on the main page, the National Forecast Chart, is very useful. There is a key on the bottom left-hand side of the screen here that essentially tells you what is what. And it also tells you the frontal systems and the pressure systems as well at the surface. You could see that there are going to be many cold fronts, many warm fronts, many occluded fronts, many dry lines, many low pressure systems, and high pressure systems. You can see there is an abundance of low pressure over in the western United States, with high pressure, a triad of high pressures, one in the Gulf, one off the Atlantic, and one over Indiana right now. I shouldn't say right now, but this is issued 4:11 p.m., so it's kind of basically right now. And then there are two low pressure systems, actually, well, four that are connected via frontal systems, dry lines, occluded fronts, and other boundaries. You could also see that there's rain for the northeast with some potential snow for the mountains. There also could be a thunderstorm or two. There is heavy rain and flash flooding possible for Tennessee today, also Missouri, Kentucky, Arkansas, Alabama, and Georgia, and severe thunderstorms possible from Texas to Oklahoma to Kansas. This actually matches the slight risk of severe weather issued by the Storm Prediction Center, which is very convenient. Now, the reason why I say slight risk from the Storm Prediction Center, the reason why I'm specifying is because the Weather Prediction Center also issues a slight risk, specifically of precipitation, but you can't really get those two mixed up. It's crucial that one is one and the other is the other. They don't mean the same thing. But like I was saying, potential rain and thunderstorms for the northwestern United States, through the Dakotas, through the plains, into the southeast. And then snow for the Rockies. That's for day 1. That's for today. This is for day 2. This was issued this morning. There is heavy rain and flash flooding for Montana, and severe thunderstorms for Nebraska and South Dakota tomorrow, with thunderstorm potential extending all the way from Idaho and Nevada down to Florida. And there will be a low pressure system off the mid-Atlantic or the coast of Boston and basically off the Atlantic that will be creating precipitation and thunderstorms. I should say not thunderstorms, but just precipitation with some potential snow in the mountains. Then on day 3, that low pressure system skedaddles, gets out of everyone's hair. The front kind of just separates or whatever and goes off to doing its own thing. High pressure systems take over for the Great Lakes. One high pressure system situates itself off the Atlantic coast. 2 high pressures are in the Rocky Mountains and off of Texas. And then several lows. Lows are the L's, highs are the H's. Yeah, it's just there. So, cool. The blue is mixed precipitation, which also does consist of snow. So, cool. So, usually there are many things to go for, but today we're going to be looking at the excessive rain, ERO, excessive extended range outlook, EROs. Uh, so yeah, so this is going to be also a back-to-back video from a video I will be posting. So cool. So this works the same way that the Storm Prediction Center does. There are certain bits of criteria that can enable the Weather Prediction Center to either issue a marginal risk, a slight risk, a moderate risk, or a high risk of precipitation. There is no enhanced risk of precipitation. There also are no general thunderstorm probabilities because this isn't the Storm Prediction Center. The Weather Prediction Center does not have, again, like I said, does not have an enhanced risk. It's just marginal, slight, moderate, high. It's basically like the Storm Prediction Center, but back in 2013, basically kind of when they did not have an enhanced risk or a marginal. They just had marginal, well, they just had slight, moderate, high. Okay, but then throw the marginal in there. I don't know. Who cares? Anyways, so the text in black says risk of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles of a point to the right of a line. So basically, that means within 25 miles of a point, uh, usually there will be a certain criteria that is met and a certain probability in percentages of precipitation is likely. And the greater the chances of precipitation, the worse that the events of precipitation can be. It's the worst they can be. Marginal is at least a 5% chance of some precipitation event, or really exceeding flash flood guidance. It's really there, and then slight risk is at least a 15% chance of exceeding flash flood guidance. A moderate is at least 40% of flash flood guidance, and high is at least 70% of exceeding flash flood guidance. My criteria is slight risks, and we're just for the fun of it gonna read all of the days. So the maximum risk here, I'm just going to speed through this. The maximum risk here is a slight for the Southeast. The maximum risk here is a slight for Montana. Maximum risk here is a marginal risk. There is no risk on day 4. And on day 5, the maximum risk is a marginal. For days 4 and 5, it's different because it's an extended, like, it's more extended. So a high risk option is not viable. It's just marginal, slight, and moderate for days 4 and 5. So, like the Storm Prediction Center and Climate Prediction Center, there are also descriptions, essentially describing, that's what descriptions do. That's what there are descriptions that describe the weather, the meteorological happenings that occur. And we're going to read all of them. The WPC obviously updates their forecast. You could see 16Z update. It also may say 20Z update. Excuse me. It will say a certain time period, then an update. That's how you know that the Weather Prediction Center has updated. Plus, it'll also say previous discussion. For me, what I want to do is I want to read the previous discussion first, and then read the update. Read the updated stuff. So, previous discussion, this is for day 1, this is today, it's for the Southeastern United States. Here we go. Previous discussion. Largely maintained the previous slight risk area that was introduced in the southeastern U.S. A sheared 500 millibar vorticity maximum approaching from the west will be encountering a moist air mass with increasing amounts of instability later during the day and evening. The latest numerical guidance kept expected precipitable water values in the 2 to 2.25 inch range along and south of a quasi-stationary front draped across the region from the Tennessee Valley to the South Carolina coast. Instability will be highest over Alabama on east into central and southern Georgia, with most unstable Cape between 1 and 2,000 joules per kilogram most often. MU Cape up to 1,000 will be available later tonight from the Savannah River to coastal South Carolina. This combination should be enough to support and sustain localized rainfall rates in excess of 2 inches per hour where warm rain processes predominate from eastern Alabama eastward to the Savannah River this afternoon and tonight. Mid-Mississippi Valley to the southeast. The western portion of the front affecting the southeastern U.S. will extend into portions of the mid-Mississippi Valley and provide the focus for showers and thunderstorms, some of which may produce locally heavy rainfall from the Tennessee Valley into the mid-Mississippi Valley and tonight. Eastern Washington State to the northern Rockies. A marginal risk remained in place across far northeast Washington to northwest Montana due to an increase in the heavy rainfall signal for this period as an upper-level low over the west on day 1 places this region in an area with better upward forcing and advection of moisture. And the presence of anomalous moisture and some instability may present a threat for localized heavy rainfall and flash flooding, especially for burn-scar locations within this region. My criteria for recording something on the WPC is either if it's interesting or if there's a slight risk at least. And then the 16Z update. Main change is an expansion of the slight risk across Tennessee, far southern Kentucky, northern Arkansas, and southern Missouri. Overall, would generally consider the flash flooding risk isolated, but a few clusters of more concentrated impacts appear probable. Flash flood guidance, or FFG, exceedance probabilities from both the 12Z HREF and REFS show a broad corridor of 15% to 30% values, approximately aligned with the adjusted slight risk area, with 3-inch neighborhood exceedance probabilities of around 40 to 70%. So, while coverage of these higher amounts should stay localized, weak flow and broad lower level convergence will support a few convective clusters capable of 2 inches per hour and totals exceeding 3 inches. Made some tweaks to confine the marginal risk over New England to just New Hampshire into western Maine. A widespread 1 to 2 inches of rain is expected as a strong mid to upper level low dives southeast into the region, with both the HREF and REFS supporting localized totals over 3 inches. However, hourly rainfall rates will generally stay below 1 inch. However, we could locally exceed 1 inch per hour rainfall rates as the low will drop south tonight, and we could get some enhanced convergence closer to the New Hampshire and Maine coasts. A few spots could see event total rainfall around or just above 3 inches, which combined with around 1 inch per hour rates could be enough to result in some localized flash flooding impacts. And a small marginal risk was added for dryline convection across western Texas. Storm motions should be quick enough to limit the risk. However, a few supercells could briefly anchor to the dryline and locally enhance rainfall totals. That's for today. Here's tomorrow. Alrighty. So previous discussion. Southeast. Latest numerical guidance has shifted a majority of the rainfall eastward enough compared with previous runs to preclude an upgrade to a slight risk. In addition, the spread of model guidance both in terms of placement and the amounts precluded an upgrade. As mentioned previously, some of the region, especially western parts of South Carolina and into the Appalachians, has been very wet as of lately and is well primed, so may be more vulnerable to flooding concerns. Northern Rockies to the high plains. The upper level low over the west during the day 1 period will weaken and shift northeastward, moving over the northern Rockies to the high plains on Saturday. Moisture anomalies will continue to be in the 90 to 90th percentile. Let's just say 90th percentile. Moisture anomalies will continue to be in the 90th percentile, supporting moderate to heavy rainfall with widespread QPF, or quantitative precipitation forecasts. It's basically the amount of rain prognosticated. Greater than 0.5 to 1 inches, likely across western and central Montana. There may not be a lot of instability to work with, so any flood or flash flood threats should be mainly localized with particular attention to burn scar locations. A fairly broad marginal risk remained in place across much of western and central Montana into parts of northern Wyoming as well. Then, this is the update. Upgraded to a slight risk across portions of Montana, where isolated to scattered flash flooding is possible. The eastern half of the slight risk area should see the highest rainfall rates, with HREF, or High Resolution Ensemble Forecast, neighborhood probabilities of exceeding 1 inch per hour in the 30 to 50% range, and 2 inches per hour around 10%. This results in HREF flash flood guidance exceedance probabilities broadly over 25%. There should be enough coverage of higher rainfall rates to result in some flash flooding risk. Instability is less the farther west you go in Montana, but the rainfall coverage will be greater, resulting in higher aerial average rainfall. The flood risk should gradually transition from flash flood to aerial flooding and river flooding as you go west across the state. Elsewhere, the marginal risk was broadened across the northern plains into the Mississippi Valley along an elongated moisture axis. Convective details are uncertain at this lead time, but that entire corridor will have above average moisture and some forcing. The most organized convective threat may end up over portions of Nebraska and South Dakota Saturday night as the stronger forcing ejects into the area. However, there are also signals of organized convective clusters within the moisture axis anywhere from Arkansas to Iowa, and while convection is unlikely along this axis, where it does develop, rainfall rate potential will be higher enough for localized flash flooding. This is tomorrow. This is Sunday. Previous discussion. The upper level low, which has been supporting the prolonged wet period over the northern Rockies, will continue to move northward across Montana slowly on Sunday. This does result in surface low pressure and associated surface fronts to make its way out over the plains and gradually weaken, while the mid and upper level circulation keeps precipitation lingering over Montana and far northern Wyoming. Moisture remains anomalously high, but instability still looks to be dependent upon cloud cover. As in the day 2 period, any flood or flash flooding threats should be maintained and mainly localized with particular attention to burn scar locations. Southeast. Until surface high pressure builds far enough southward into the southeast states to decrease the coverage of lingering convection on Sunday evening, the antecedent conditions keep a risk of flooding concerns over the area. 20Z update expanded the marginal risk to cover most of anomalous moisture plumes that will extend from Montana into the southeastern U.S. in between troughing over the west and northeast. Large-scale forcing is more subtle outside of the northern plains and the Rockies, but there should be some weak shortwaves embedded within the weak flow. Global deterministic models, ensemble means, and AI models show a broad convective threat along this entire corridor, with no clear area of higher focus. Thus, at this moment, a large marginal risk seems to handle the localized flash flood risk that should exist. Some fine-tuning of the marginal and/or a focused slight risk upgrades will be possible as we get closer and convective modes and evolution become more clear. I'm gonna be right back. Alrighty, I am back. So this was for Sunday's risk. This is for Monday's risk and Tuesday's risk. They both kind of congeal into one. Monday has no risk. Tuesday has this risk. So let's read the description because they're both again combined into one. So this was 12 hours ago, so stuff definitely has changed, but it just definitely wasn't written down. Troughing over the Intermountain West above a decaying low-pressure system will promote scattered showers and thunderstorms over thunderstorm activity across the central U.S. next week. Some thunderstorms over portions of the southern high plains could produce isolated instances of flash flooding next Tuesday, which is reflected in our day 4 marginal risk, at least a 5% chance of excessive rainfall. Warm and humid air will continue to surge north throughout these areas, leading to muggy conditions through midweek, when conditions begin to improve a little bit as warm air shifts into the eastern U.S. Troughing over the east will support slightly below average temperatures until midweek, when the aforementioned seasonal air mass, or seasonal air, begins to work its way back into the region. Elsewhere, temperatures will remain around average. A plume of tropical moisture may impact portions of the Gulf Coast late next week, but there is still plenty of uncertainty regarding where exactly the maximum quantitative precipitation forecast footprint will organize at this time. So that's it. That's really what uh, what even is this Weather Prediction Center? That's what the Weather Prediction Center does. Forecasts precipitation probabilities and probabilities of flash flooding. There you go. It's as simple as that. Anyways, I'm really tired from making videos because I made a video earlier. So, yeah, I'm just really tired. So, see y'all in the next one. Goodbye.